Um, Imagine a highly stressful but, incredibly mundane situation. Picture this. You bought a villa maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Right. Just a quiet, safe little investment.
Exactly. It was a decent place to just park your money. You lived a comfortable, relatively static life, and you kind of just forgot about it.
As you do. Yeah.
But recently, you get a notice in the mail, and you discover the property is actually an illegal structure.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a nightmare.
It really is. Suddenly it gets slapped with one of those dreaded yellow stickers from the city, and now the dominoes start falling.
Let me guess, the finances get hit first.
Yep, the bank blocks your loans, housing insurance completely drops your coverage. And, I mean, to make matters worse, you are now trapped in this messy, escalating, deeply personal conflict with a tenant who has lived there for over a decade.
Man, it's just the ultimate administrative nightmare. You're paralyzed, basically.
Mm.
Financially, legally, and socially.
Yeah, completely paralyzed.
Every single exit door just seems to be bolted shut, and the sheer friction of the situation just consumes your entire life.
Right, and I think we've all faced some version of this, right? Whether it's a legal trap, a career dead end, or maybe a relationship that suddenly turns incredibly toxic.
Oh, definitely. We've all been there.
But what if this kind of a real estate headache or, any massive life friction isn't just a string of bad luck? We are doing a deep dive today into a really fascinating concept from our source material called the law of mass.
Yeah, and it's a cosmic principle. It suggests these bureaucratic nightmares and interpersonal conflicts are actually meticulous mathematical reflections of our own internal growth.
It's wild to think about. Whether you are feeling stuck in your career right now or dealing with a stubborn conflict or just wondering what your next life move should be, this deep dive is going to offer a completely new lens to view your personal growth.
It really reframes our entire understanding of movement and stagnation. The premise here is that human beings are subject to the same physical laws that govern the cosmos.
Which sounds huge, but it's so applicable.
Exactly. I mean, everything about our lives, our social mobility, the city we live in, the arguments we have with our neighbors, is dictated by our internal mass. And the most dangerous thing a human being can do is try to stay perfectly still.
Let's actually pull on that thread of staying still.
Yeah.
Because the source's take on this whole villa situation is, well, it's a harsh truth.
Yeah. It doesn't hold back.
If you stay in a cheap, comfortable situation for over a decade without growing, you don't just maintain the status quo, you will inevitably be forced out.
Right, because we fall into this trap of thinking stagnation is a safe, neutral baseline.
Right.
Like, you find a clever way to save money, living comfortably in an inexpensive, static situation for 13 years, and you think, you think you're winning the game.
But you're really not.
No, because the universe simply does not tolerate zero movement. If you aren't actively expanding and, growing your internal capacity, you aren't hitting pause. You are actively setting a trap that will forcibly eject you from that comfortable space.
It makes me think of what happens to the human body in zero gravity, or even just being bedridden.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. If you sit perfectly still at home for a month, you don't just stay the same shape. Your muscles atrophy. Your proteins literally stiffen up.
Yeah, your fascia starts to glue together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eventually, you lose the mechanical ability to even unfold your fingers or move your legs. Life, at a strict biological level, requires constant active movement just to maintain the baseline.
It's like treading water in an ocean current.
Yes, exactly like that. If you stop kicking, you don't just stay in place. You either drown or you get swept away.
And that biological reality is a perfect microcosm of a much larger astrophysical law. When we sit in our living rooms, held down by gravity, we feel completely still.
We feel like nothing is moving.
Right. But the reality is, the Earth is hurtling around the sun at over 60,000 miles an hour. The entire solar system is spiraling through the Milky Way. And why do massive stars and planets move?
Because of their mass, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because of their mass. Immense mass dictates immense movement. The fundamental architecture of reality is dynamic. Static just doesn't exist anywhere in nature.
So the universe operates on this intrinsic law of mass and movement. But how do we bridge the gap between, stars hurtling through the Milky Way and a frustrated landlord dealing with a yellow sticker on a villa?
It seems like a leap, for sure.
Yeah, like how does astrophysical mass translate into our human reality?
Well, we have to look at the concept of what the source calls human mass. And this isn't physical weight, obviously.
Right, we're not talking about stepping on a scale.
No. It is your internal capacity. It encompasses your wisdom, your emotional regulation, your ability to handle complex realities, and your accumulated
So
experience.
it's like your energetic density.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Just like celestial bodies, your human mass exerts a gravitational pull, and it dictates your movement. As your internal mass increases, the environment you are in can no longer contain you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you are naturally compelled to move to places that match that new higher frequency and density.
I want to visualize the mechanics of that. If your mass grows, it's almost like a video game where you've leveled up so much that the starter area just doesn't offer any more experience points.
That's a really good way to put it.
Your increased level literally unlocks new areas of the map, and the game naturally pushes you there. You might wake up one day and feel this undeniable, magnetic urge to travel to the center of a massive metropolis like Seoul.
Or fly across the world to stand in front of the Louvre.
Right. You aren't just whimsically deciding to be a tourist. Your expanded internal mass is demanding a larger, more complex arena to operate within.
That's a highly accurate way to frame it. A low-mass individual might look at the Louvre and just see, old paint on canvas. They don't have the internal density to interface with the historical and artistic complexity.
They just bounce right off of it.
Exactly. But a high-mass individual absorbs it. And this law works in both directions, too.
Wait, so what happens if your mass decreases?
Well, if you stop learning, if you coast in that comfortable villa for a decade, your internal weight drops. And when your capacity shrinks, the dense, fast-paced energy of a high-mass center becomes overwhelming.
It's just too much friction for you.
Yeah, the universe pushes you outward or downward.
Yeah.
You might find yourself naturally drifting or being forced away from the high-energy center of the city out to the quieter, slower provinces.
Wow.
You are relocated to a place where the environmental energy perfectly matches your diminished internal mass.
Okay, I need to test that logic a bit because it's hard to separate this from basic economics, right?
Sure.
If I'm living in the center of Seoul or New York, and my landlord raises my rent by 40% and I have to move to the suburbs, that feels like capitalism, not a cosmic energetic law. Aren't we just romanticizing gentrification?
It's a valid question. It sounds a bit like an economic reality dressed up as spirituality.
Exactly, like, oh, the universe wanted me to move, not my empty wallet.
Well, it is entirely natural to look at the bank account and blame the landlord. But the source asks us to look at the hidden mechanism driving that economic reality.
Yeah.
Financial loss or stagnant income is usually a symptom of a mass drop, not the root cause.
Okay, so the lack of money is just the surface level issue.
Right. Why couldn't that person adapt to the rising rent? Did their professional skills stagnate over the last 5 years? Did they stop networking?
Did they start growing?
Exactly. Did they lose their curiosity and settle into a routine while the city around them accelerated? The financial hit is simply the blunt instrument the universe uses to physically relocate them.
Ah, I see. So the money is just the delivery mechanism for the physics.
Precisely. If your internal capacity has stalled, you genuinely cannot handle the high-density, complex energy of the city's center anymore. It exhausts you.
You probably make poorer decisions, too.
You do. You fall behind in your career.
Yeah.
And eventually the friction becomes too great, and you are naturally sorted into an environment like the slower-paced provinces that you can actually manage.
It's basically an energetic sorting hat,
Yeah, perfectly placing you where you currently fit.
which means it isn't a punishment, and it isn't a permanent exile either.
Not at all.
If you are out in the provinces and you realize your mass dropped, you can start building it back up. If you start reading, learning, challenging yourself again, your internal density increases.
You fill your cup back up.
Right, like water displacement, you become too heavy for the shallow end, and you naturally earn the right to return to those higher energy centers.
It is a dynamic, constantly shifting scale of your internal weight matching your external geography. And this dynamic scale dictates not just where you live, but your entire social status and professional trajectory.
That brings up a really tough scenario from the source.
Yeah, consider the psychological agony of a business demotion.
Right, the restaurant owner.
Exactly. Imagine a person who owns their own restaurant. They are the boss. They set the rules. But over time, they get comfortable. They stop innovating their menu. They stop paying attention to their customers, and their internal mass drops.
And what's the inevitable result?
The business fails. They lose the restaurant and are forced to go work as a line cook under someone else in a different kitchen.
Going from the owner to the subordinate, I mean, that is a brutal transition for the ego.
Oh, completely shattering.
Imagine walking through the employee entrance of a kitchen when you used to own the building. Or, for anyone listening, Imagine a younger, less experienced colleague suddenly getting promoted over you and becoming your
It
boss.
happens all the time.
It does, and the immediate human reflex is bitterness.
It is a massive blow to the ego. But this introduces what is perhaps the most critical and honestly the most difficult rule of the law of mass.
Which is
When you experience this kind of downward mobility, when your mass drops and you are forced into a lower position, you must absolutely not complain.
zero complaining, which feels, that feels
It
impossible.
goes against everything we're taught.
Right. Our entire culture is built on venting our frustrations when things seem unfair. Why is complaining so destructive here?
Because complaining is essentially arguing with gravity.
Oh, that's a great phrase.
If you spend your mental bandwidth complaining about the unfairness of the universe, you are leaking energy. You have zero bandwidth left to absorb the lesson.
You're just spinning your tires.
Right. The reality is, nature perfectly placed you in that subordinate role because it is the exact fit for your current diminished mass. You were demoted so you could relearn the fundamental skills you neglected when you got comfortable. Complaining just blinds you to the curriculum.
That completely changes how we look at the real estate conflict we started with. The illegal villa, the yellow sticker, the hostile tenant.
How so?
Well, if we apply this no complaining rule, the solution isn't a better lawyer.
All right.
The solution is adopting an attitude of profound humility. You have to look at the mess, strip away your ego, and admit, my mass dropped, I stagnated. I thought I could just coast on this investment for 13 years without improving myself or the property, and now the universe is forcing me to deal with this massive friction.
Societal conflicts fundamentally are a clash of mismatched masses. Whether it's a landlord-tenant dispute, a messy divorce, or a boss-employee argument, the friction occurs because one or both parties refuse to accept their current mass.
We fight aggressively because our ego demands a status higher than our internal weight actually warrants.
Exactly. We think we deserve the penthouse, but we only have the energetic mass for the basement, so we throw a tantrum.
That is such a vivid way to picture it.
And if both parties in that villa dispute humbly accepted their current positions and shifted from a mindset of victimhood to a mindset of being a student, the conflict literally dissolves.
Because the friction isn't needed anymore.
Right. You focus entirely on equipping yourself, learning from the problem without bitterness, and your mass naturally begins to rise again.
And there's a real, tangible reward for that effort, according to the source. The world is meticulously designed to be fair.
It really is.
If you find yourself humbled, working in someone else's kitchen, or digging out of a property disaster, and you make a genuine effort to learn and adapt without whining, you change your gravitational pull.
You start attracting different things.
Exactly. You will naturally attract higher mass individuals. Mentors, investors, or just wise friends will be drawn into your orbit, and they will literally pull you upward.
Your humility and your willingness to learn act as a powerful magnet.
Hmm.
But it absolutely hinges on that initial painful acceptance of exactly where you are right now. You simply cannot grow your mass if you are living in a delusion about your current size.
I want to take a step back here because we've been talking about this as a very effective framework for personal accountability and career growth.
Sure.
But there is a massive metaphysical twist to this entire concept in the source material.
Oh, this is where it gets really deep.
Right. We started with a bureaucratic yellow sticker on an illegal building, and now we are talking about the meticulous, energetic design of the universe. So, what is the ultimate point of all this movement? Why are we forced to build mass in the first place?
This is where we shift from astrophysics and psychology into profound philosophy. The premise here is that Earth is not just a random rock floating in space that happens to support biological life.
It's not just a coincidence.
No. Earth is a highly specialized, meticulously designed school. And is not a school for animals, it is a school for gods.
A school for gods. Let's unpack the mechanics of that. The idea is that human beings are fundamentally divine beings, gods, or pure consciousness, who are currently encased in these physical, biological bodies.
And our sole mission on this planet, the entire reason we are incarnated into these dense physical forms, is to experience friction.
Friction. That's the key word right there.
It really is.
If you think about the spiritual realm, or pure consciousness, it's theoretically frictionless. There's no gravity, no time, no rent to pay, no annoying neighbors complaining about the noise.
It's just peaceful emptiness.
Right. But if you are in a frictionless environment, you can't build muscle. You can't grow. It's like going to a gym where the weights just float away. You need heavy, dense reality to create resistance.
That is exactly the mechanism. The physical body is a sensory tool designed to interface with density. We are placed on Earth specifically to deal with the illegal villas, the failing businesses, the betrayals, and the demotions.
It's the whole point of being here.
Exactly. Because it is only through that specific worldly friction, through the painful process of hitting rock bottom, stripping away our ego, learning humility and overcoming, that a divine soul can elevate its mass.
The physical body is essentially a heavy, cumbersome spacesuit we wear so we can dive into the gravity of Earth and do the heavy lifting.
I love that analogy, a spacesuit for gravity.
Yeah. And the goal is to build up our internal mass while we are in the suit. Because the ultimate law of mass states that when we eventually die, when we shed this physical spacesuit, the higher mass we've cultivated transfers directly with us into the spiritual realm.
It changes the context of literally everything you experience. You aren't just trying to fix a real estate issue to save your credit score or win an argument with a tenant to protect your pride.
You are participating in a custom-designed curriculum.
Every annoyance, every major failure, every person who cuts you off in traffic or challenges your authority, they are not obstacles to your life. They actually are your life.
They're the weights in the gym.
Yes, they are educational tools, highly specific tests designed to challenge your humility and force your mass to expand.
This completely reframes the mundane reality of our day-to-day lives. Think about what we've unpacked today in this deep dive. We started with the illusion of stagnation, how trying to just tread water and coast in a comfortable situation for years actually guarantees you will be ejected, just like biology demands movement to prevent atrophy.
We examine the mechanics of human mass and how your internal density dictates your physical and social geography.
Right, the energetic sorting.
Whether you find yourself effortlessly drawn to the complex, high-energy centers of the world, or naturally pushed out to slower environments, it is never an accident. It is always a perfect mathematical reflection of your current internal capacity.
We looked at the absolute necessity of humility, too. The strict rule of not complaining when you are demoted or face a massive setback.
Because complaining is arguing with gravity.
Exactly. Accepting your current state without ego is the only way to stop leaking energy and begin building your mass back up to attract people who can pull you higher.
And finally, we explore that grand perspective. Earth as the ultimate training ground. A specialized school where divine beings use the heavy, frustrating friction of the physical world to elevate their spiritual mass.
It makes you realize that the universe wastes absolutely nothing. Every bureaucratic nightmare, every yellow sticker on a building, every failed business venture is curriculum.
Everything has a purpose.
It really does. Which leaves us with something really profound to mull over. I want you to look at your immediate surroundings right now as you listen to this. Think about your city. Think about your current job title. Think about the specific person you argue with the most.
The ones that really cause that friction.
Yeah. If Earth truly is a school, and your current environment perfectly reflects your internal mass, what specific, humbling lesson is the universe waiting for you to learn before it unlocks the map and allows you to move to your Louvre?